All right. 19, introduction of ordinance, creation of Mosquito Abatement Board, District 2 and 3. Mr. Talbot, Mr. King.
This is just a follow-up to the, there was obviously a wish by the council not to move forward with a parish-wide mosquito abatement. And since Scooter and I tend to have probably the most densely populated, unincorporated areas of the parish, we decided that, we would ask the formal mosquito abatement board with the boundaries of our council district being the boundaries of the board. Now, as reapportionment occurs, there might be other councilmen that will be affected because the boundaries are going to stay the same forever. Unless they're amended, they won't move with the council district. They'll stay as they're outlined now. It creates the same situation, the ability to, ask permission for a millage or a fee, and then ask permission to have somebody else collect it for us. Same wording as the other ordinance. It just limits the boundaries to 2 and 3, and we chose to do it together because there's some economy in numbers. There's some specific regulations with respect to mosquito abatement districts that you've got to have a qualified, certified person run them, and so if we each tried to set our own up, we would both have to have a person, in those particular areas. So there was some economy and putting them together, and so that was the reason behind doing it.
So areas are very similar.
So we just like to ask y'all support and in the introduction of this ordinance.
I have a question of what you were saying. So logic dictates both of y'all's districts are probably going to shrink over time.
Yeah, over time.
But the area that you're collecting the millage from will stay the same.
Stay the same.
But they'll still get treated.
Whatever area. Basically, I guess what I'm saying is, like, for example, right now, typically, as reapportionment occurs, what's happened in Watson is the area gets further north.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
To accommodate. Or it might get further, your district
Just
might.
like the drainage district that me and you both
Right, so what'll happen is over time, the boundaries that are established with this ordinance will stay the same forever. So if District 2 shrinks and District 1 expands into it, then you'll have some of your constituents that'll be part of the mosquito abatement.
Yeah.
So mosquito abatement will not follow the council districts.
Yeah.
Once the boundary is established, it'll be that boundary. And then until some funding source is voted on by the people, it'll be easy to, if somebody chose to request to, enter the district, the boundaries could easily be modified by the council without a vote of the people. However, if a funding source is developed, whatever that may be, and the people voted on that funding source, then they would, to add to the district would require an election. Just like the merger
Like if you
of the
wanted
sewer
it,
districts or whatever.
They just put it on the ballot and vote on it.
So I mean, it's the district can, even though it started as District 2 and 3, it's not limited to that. There will be the ability, if people in the future have a different opinion, there is an economy in numbers. Make no mistake about it. So in lieu of having to create another district somewhere else with a different overhead, it'd be more economical to add people to it if that was what was chosen at a later date. But given the fact that Scooter and I tend to have the like I said, the most densely populated unincorporated areas, that we feel that our constituents are interested in having mosquito abatement, we're going to go ahead and try to service their need.
But that's what I was saying, though. But logic dictates over time, y'all's geographical area is going to shrink.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
I'm estimating right now that in 2 and 3 we have about 50,000 constituents.
Yeah.
Well, it shouldn't be but 14 in each district. There's 26,000 in Watson.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you look at it, I mean, our districts are going to, and heck, I'm on the boundary of District 2. My backyard is the boundary. So given the typical way it moves or whatever, it's going to be hard. I'm going to be hard to be in District 2 after reapportionment. I make no mistake about it. It's just the way things are going.
My district may go further south. It'll take some of 2 and come down.
So I mean, it just depends. But I mean, the point I wanted to make is the boundaries aren't going to change within the.
Right. It doesn't have to have a whole bunch of change every time we do a reapportionment and things like that. So.
I'd like to make the motion.
And I'd second.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, and second by Mr. King. Is there any comment from the public on this?
I have a question.
Anything from the council?
I thought you guys was. Yeah.
Gaten Smith from 9295 North Street. By the way, purple martins eat their body weight in mosquitoes every day, so put up your purple martin houses and the mud martin houses. Those that build mud up in the house. I don't see anything wrong with somebody looking into and finding a solution to this. And if the people in that parish area are so willing to pay for it, it shouldn't be an issue. But we have a tendency to make decisions because it's just like your people don't want it because of the spray, and I understand that. But you're saying because your people don't want it, these people can't have it. So I just think it's a smart thing to do. If they want to take the adventure and go for it and do the research, and then it might be feasible at a later time that your people change and say, we want it because they get that hiding under that cast iron tub and the mosquitoes come through there and pick it up and fly off with it, and they might change their mind, you know? So just a little thought.
Thank you.
You're right. And that's.
I thought you were saying purple Martians. I mean, your shirt, because of your shirt.
If we have any purple Martians,
I was like,
please send them my way.
I was going to say, well, look, I'd like to see that purple Martian.
That's very observant.
The purple Martian house.
Any more comments from the public?
Don't forget the bats.
Oh,
But bats eat other bugs too.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about bats. I got it. I have a camp in Hodaid, and the subfloor and the attic have bats living in it. And I can't figure out which is worse: the mosquitoes biting you on the outside or dodging the bats at dusk and in early in the morning.
Those
But
are
anyway,
fun. Those are fun.
they'll scare you to death.
You
You
got it.
walking down the stairs and the bat's coming home in the morning on the way to you going fishing and the bat's coming home. It's an interesting combination.
That just gets your blood flowing.
Get you ready to get in the
I'm
boat.
worried about my heart quitting.
You need some purple. You need some purple Martians, man.
all right. Mr. Wascom, you had a comment?
Yeah, if you create a mosquito abatement district for the current districts 2 and 3, is that correct?
Yes.
Two and 3. Then to do this, it's going to require some funding, some major money. Would you collect money from within those districts only?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it couldn't be.
I mean,
they would have to
you
vote
can't-
it in
you
on
can't-
themselves.
Okay, well, my question is, would you wind up taxing the businesses, the residents, the homeowners? Would you put it on their water bills?
not sure yet.
How are you going to fund a mosquito abatement
If
district?
Mr. Harrell was still here, he'd be telling you how he's helping us write a grant as soon as we make this thing legal. And then secondly, if you'd have listened to what Scooter and I have talked about the whole time, it's never our intention to ever put a tax on the ballot. And so,
Well, that's not what I've heard.
where have you heard where I said we put a tax on the ballot? Never asked to have a tax on the ballot.
Well, I mean, I've heard you mention different funding mechanisms, and taxes was one of them.
Well, ad valorem taxes or sales taxes, I mean, I think if you read John's article, it'll tell you that I'm not interested in ad valorem or sales tax, either one, to fund mosquito abatement. I was on the record from that from the beginning. I think a $3 a month fee, might be something we're interested in doing as long as we can find a mechanism to collect it. But because the most important thing about that is that it's equal across the board. I mean, what you're going to find out is if you'll go look at the history of this thing, John, you'll find out that people supported fees that are equal. What they're not in favor of is taxes that tend to be more burdensome on different socioeconomic, people. A sales tax is more burdensome on poor people. A property tax is more burdensome on rich people. And there's no reason for anything to be burdensome on one group or another more than the other. So consequently, a fee that would be equal to you or equal to me, not without respect of what size our house was or how much our property taxes was, and wasn't based on income, is the fairest way to do it. And we've talked about that from day one. So the only mechanism that we might even consider outside of grants is requesting a fee. But what we've got to do is find a solution to collect the fee. The problem that the Mosquito Abatement District had before was that they had a fee that they billed, but there was no mechanism for enforcement. And there were a certain group that paid and there were a certain group that didn't. And people tend to not pay when their neighbor isn't paying. And that was the problem with the funding source of the previous mosquito abatement district, is you couldn't count on the revenue. If they could have found a mechanism to enforce the collection of the $30 a year, we'd still have mosquito abatement today. So you don't have to worry about Scooter or either one asking for an ad valorem or sales tax.
Okay, so you're not going to do it by taxing the property, but you're going to, I guess, you're going to call it a tax or a fee or whatever you want to call it. You're going to tie it to their water, to everybody's water meter. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what we're going to do. We don't know yet. The board's going to decide that.
So, and then.
But we did say that if we chose to have the water company collect.
Well, that's what's in the ordinance. You said that
said-
they have the legal power to necessary to expedient means to collect, enforce collection of taxes, including contracting with waterworks, local districts.
Same thing the last one said.
Exactly.
Because if you don't put in there the ability to use the waterworks to collect it, you got to come back and amend the ordinance later.
So basically you're saying.
So basically, that
you're
if
looking
we
to put it into their water meter.
chose to put it on the water bill,
But we may.
then what would happen is if the board chose to do that, whenever time they chose to do it, then they would have to go to the people within that district and ask them to vote on, will you pay this fee and can we attach it to your water bill?
You know, Mr. Talbot, I'm going to say this. There's a bunch of municipalities in Livingston Parish. We have Denham Springs, Walker, Albany, Holden, French Settlement, Port Vincent, a lot of municipalities that have got together and incorporated in this parish, a group of people in this parish that have incorporated. And with that form of government, they have a mayor, they have city council members that together enforce, bring government involvement such as animal control, mosquito control, zoning is what you've been a big proponent for. I would think that the right thing to do would be for Watson to incorporate and start some type of municipality and let the local government, who has a mayor and a city council, which is lots of checks and balances in government who are close to the people in that area, perform these type of local things instead of one parish council member deciding from the whole area up there. So
let me ask you a question. Do you don't think Rec 3, is it Rec 3?
Yeah.
Do you think Rec 3 does a good job? Or do you think the city of Denham should have created a parks district and Rec 3 shouldn't exist? Do you think Gravity 1 does a good job? Or do you think that the city of Denham should handle it and everybody outside of it shouldn't have one?
I think Gravity 1
okay, so
does a good
it's
job.
the same deal. It's the same situation. We're creating an independent piece of government to collect a fee to implement a service. Just like Gravity 1, just like Gravity 2, just like Gravity 5. Just like Recreation 5 South, just like Recreation 7, just like Recreation 3, just like Recreation 2. It's the same entity. It's just like Fire District 4. I mean, we can name the independent entities of government. So don't tell me that the only way we can have mosquito abatement is if we get incorporated in what?
It can be done. I don't doubt
But
that.
see, that would leave me completely out of the whole equation.
Well, if
Because they're not going to incorporate 3 into Watson.
I'd like to call for the
This
question.
part is
I'd like to call for
I'm
the
not
question.
finished talking. I'm not finished
I'm
talking.
going to call for the question.
I'm not finished.
That's it. Question's been called. We got it.
Just vote
Mr.
no.
Talbot,
No,
Mr.
I have-
Talbot, you called.
So
for a
how are you
motion.
going to spray in that area
John.
and not let it drift over into other
John, the
people's
question's
area?
been called. We can't discuss it.
That's the questions that need to be answered
John,
before you create a
question's
district.
been called. Second by Mr. King. Ms. Sandy, read by title.
This is proposed ordinance 18-15. This is an ordinance providing for the creation of a mosquito abatement district and establish a board and council districts 2 and 3 in the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, comprising all that territory in the parish as set out herein, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. The public hearing will be on April 26th at 6 p.m.
Ms. Sandy, call for a vote.
Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. Wascom,
No.
Mr. Garlinghouse,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Talbert,
Yes.
Mr. Lobel,
Yes.
Mr. Averett,
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
All right, moving on.